Revenge films.
This is a story of the time that my ex-wife's way of thinking was so strange that I thought she might be an alien. Around that time, it had only been about 1 year since I got married to my ex-wife Karen. Out of nowhere one day, my company said that they were going to send me on a long-term business assignment. At that time, we didn't have any children yet, and Karen was also working full-time. My business assignment was going to be for 2 years. I had to think hard about what to do about my wife, but because she was very shy and introverted, even though it was a short period of 2 years, I thought that she might become stressed adjusting to a life in a completely new place. Because Karen also had her job, and because it would be complicated to adjust all of that, the two of us talked about it together. In the end, we decided that I would be going on the business assignment alone, and that my wife would remain. And so, my business assignment began. But I loved living with my wife so much that I was so lonely I could barely stand it. That's why, as soon as I was done with work, every day, we would speak on the phone for at least an hour. Whenever we spoke on the phone, my wife was always telling me how lonely and sad she was. I regretted not bringing Karen along on this assignment with me, but she had always told me that she loved her job and how much she enjoyed her colleagues, and she had told me how much stress she would feel if she came with me to a new place, so it felt like this was our only option. But on the weekends, I always went home to see her, and I tried to talk to her as much as I could on the phone so that my wife wouldn't feel lonely, even though we were apart. I thought things were going well until 3 months into the business assignment, and suddenly, my wife stopped answering the phone. Karen said that work suddenly became really busy and that she was working a lot more overtime. That's what she said to me, but I knew that my wife's company was very understanding and that they were especially mindful of married people to make sure they could leave work on time. But, well, perhaps she was taking on a lot more work because she was lonely that I wasn't home. When I thought about it like that, I felt really bad, and because I felt some responsibility for it, I couldn't question her too much about it. Around the time my wife stopped answering the phone, to be honest, there was a small part of me that suspected her of having an affair. But at the same time, because I was so far away from her, and I was the one making her feel lonely, I thought it would be too awful of me to suspect her of having an affair, so I tried to erase those feelings inside of me. However, when I went back on the weekend, there were small movements that felt like they were off, and I couldn't help but suspect my wife of cheating on me. And the main reason that made me feel that way was when I was in bed with her. Because I was Karen's first boyfriend, I know this sounds silly to say myself, but I taught her everything. And yet, in the time I hadn't seen her, my wife suddenly knew all of these tricks that I had never seen before. And not only that, but she was very good at them. When it comes to the moves, perhaps anybody would be able to watch and learn from a book or a DVD, but how do I say this? She seemed to know what exactly triggers a man, and it felt like she had been learning this through experience. And then, at that time, I remembered one more thing. At Karen's company, she had a boss named Chad, and apparently, this guy was pretty good at his job. Anytime that Karen made a mistake at work, he covered for her multiple times, and she talked about him a lot at home. Not only that, but apparently he had a pretty good face, and was the type to be popular with women. My wife was speaking about him so nonchalantly that I was just brushing it off and listening to her talk about work. However, recently I noticed that she hadn't mentioned his name at all. At the same time, I didn't have any proof whatsoever. If I was together with her every single day, then maybe I would be able to find some kind of evidence. But I was in a position where I wouldn't even know if I could come home for the weekend. It would be too easy for her to get rid of any evidence. There was a part of me that still wanted to believe in my wife, and I really didn't know what to do anymore. In the worst case scenario, I could go to a detective agency and make a request. But by going to the detective agency in the first place, that would already mean that I didn't trust my wife. If my wife ever found out about that, it was already over, and so, I didn't know what to do. I spent many sleepless nights thinking about it, when one day, I got a phone call from a friend I hadn't spoken to in a while. We briefly caught up over the phone, but then he told me that there was something he wanted to talk to me about in person. We made plans to meet that weekend while I was home. At that time, I could feel so much seriousness in my friend's voice that I assumed he wanted to have a difficult conversation. However, I misunderstood, and thought that maybe he was going to ask me to borrow money or something like that. It wasn't like I was extremely wealthy, but I was earning a pretty good salary at my current company, and when it came to financial help, I thought that I would at least be able to help him. That's what I thought, but little did I know that I was completely wrong. That weekend, since I was going to be seeing my friend anyway, I thought about talking to him about this clouded feeling inside of me and get it off my chest. When I got to the restaurant that we were going to meet at, he had gone out of his way to reserve the private room for us. When I finally thought that he was going to open up to me about money, instead, it was actually about my wife. That friend of mine was actually working at the headquarters of my wife's company, and this is what he proceeded to say. "Have you heard of a guy by the name of Chad?" When he said that to me, I felt my heart skip a beat. When I answered and said that I had heard about him, my friend continued to tell me that there were rumors going around the office that Karen was having an affair with this guy. It turns out that this Chad would often go to the headquarters for work, and that he was bragging to a few of the employees there that he was having an affair with a married woman. He also knew that I was on a business assignment far away, so he must have thought that he would never get caught, so he was up on his high horse, and was even showing people photos of my wife. Maybe he thought that he could just cut off ties with her before I got back from my assignment. Even though I had been suspecting my wife of having this affair, deep down inside, there was a part of me that wanted to believe her, and it felt like all of that trust went crumbling beneath my feet. I spoke to my friend about the reasons why I had been suspecting her of having an affair, as well as my current situation. He told me that I should confront my wife about it and speak directly to her about it. I thanked my friend, and I left the restaurant to go home. After I left, my feet felt so heavy, as though they were in chains, and I was dragging along pounds of baggage. When I thought about having to confront my wife, I felt dead inside and was dreading getting home. When I got there and walked in the front door, Karen came and welcomed me home as usual with a big smile on her face. Judging by that smile, you would never think that she was having an affair. I told Karen that I wanted to talk to her, and I had her sit down in the living room. And then, I spouted out the words that I never wanted to say. I heard from my friend, "But you're cheating on me, aren't you?" But then my wife stood up, and with a perfectly normal look on her face, she said,
"I'm not cheating on you, I'm just learning, that's all."
And she started saying these words that made no sense. I didn't know what she meant that she wasn't cheating on me, or what she meant by learning. I didn't understand at all. So I asked Karen to explain what she meant. But then, even more unbelievable words came out of her mouth. According to Karen, she said that she was studying techniques in bed for me while we were apart. Apparently, this Chad had approached her, saying that if she brushed up her techniques while I was gone, that I would come home and be thrilled. Karen was a super airhead, and that was what I found so cute about her in the beginning, but I couldn't believe that she would actually take such an idiotic suggestion so seriously. She told me that she had gone to many different hotels with Chad and was practicing. Karen's face didn't have an ounce of shame or regret on it, and I realized that she was doing it thinking she was actually doing a good thing, and I was stunned. I couldn't find any words when Karen said,
"I've been studying a lot and you can tell it's paid off, right? I've gotten better, haven't I?"
From my wife, perhaps she really felt that way, but no matter how you looked at the situation, it was ridiculous. Even now, just thinking about my wife in bed with a man that wasn't me and being taught all kinds of things made me want to throw up. She was always in her own world, and sometimes she would say or do things that I didn't understand, but the fact that she didn't see what was wrong about having any physical relationship with a man that wasn't her husband was too shocking for me to accept. Of course, even if she said that she was doing it for me, I didn't even have a millimeter of happiness about that. In an instant, I just couldn't face my wife logically anymore, and I told her to just go back to her parents' house for now, and I kicked her out of the house. After that, I was reminded that my wife didn't have any bad intentions with this, and I tried really hard to think positively about the situation. However, it didn't change the fact that she cheated on me, and I couldn't forgive her. So I decided to bring divorce papers to her. Of course, my wife became emotional about that, and she started to get angry with me, asking why she had to get a divorce. That's why I decided to explain the situation to my in-laws. When they heard what Karen had done, they were both shocked into silence, and that was when I knew that there was nothing wrong with my reaction. After that, my in-laws also agreed, and they respected my desire to get a divorce. Then they turned to their daughter and said, "What an idiotic thing for you to do! You were fooled by such stupid words and betrayed your husband!" On the other hand, of course, I made sure that the other guy got what he deserved. I sent an official notice of the affair to the headquarters as well as his family home, and I collected a settlement of $50,000 from him. Because he had been bragging about the affair to multiple people, including some people in upper management, his reputation crumbled. In the end, I heard that he was relegated. Even though he was receiving a pretty high salary, he was still living with his parents. But of course, his parents found out about the situation, and apparently they disowned him or something like that. That's what I heard, but I didn't care at all. Of course, I hired a lawyer to go after him, and made sure to collect a full settlement fee from him. I wish I could have seen it myself, but my friend told me that when he found out that I knew everything, his face went completely pale. My wife was stupid, but I also think from the bottom of my heart that this guy was also stupid. And so, with the help of Karen's parents, I was successfully able to get a divorce from her. It wasn't like she cheated on me out of evil intentions, so as my last form of pity towards her, I kept the settlement fee to a bare minimum. Until the very end, my wife continued to insist to me,
I was studying for your sake. Why won't you understand?
And she kept crying to me. But I'm sure that no matter where you're looking in this world, there isn't a husband anywhere who would actually understand or accept what Karen had done to me.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.